Hey, ambitious dentist, welcome to Start Your Dental Practice, the show for existing and aspiring dentists to take your dental practice to the highest possible level. I'm your host, Jonathan Van Horn, CPA and ABV, founder of dentistmetrics.com. In every episode, we aim to demystify the how to start a dental practice problem by bringing on world-class dentists, influencers, and consultants in the dental industry to pick their brain about how to get past the barriers involved from going from no practice to being a practice owner to owning your own successful dental practice. Today's show is a continuation of my interview from the last episode with Dr. Jarett Hulse. If you haven't listened to that episode, you'll probably want to hit pause, take some time, go back and listen to that one because it was incredibly valuable to learn how Dr. Hulse dealt with and overcame adversity early in his dental career. The first interview covers the point where he got out of dental school, tells a little bit about his personal story, and then goes up to the point where he's about to open his dental practice. So today's episode is going to talk about him opening that dental practice. And so here are the few of the things you're going to hear about. You're going to hear about some of the mistakes that Dr. Hulse made early on with his practice and what he would have done differently, the problems that signing up for multiple insurance companies caused later in Dr. Hulse's practice, why there's nothing new under the sun, and why that's important to your advertising and marketing campaigns. You're going to learn a little bit about how Dr. Hulse handled marketing of his practice, and then the dirty little secret is called being retractable that large corporate dental practices do that you need to be aware of. And lastly, a really important question I get a lot is, should you take an associate path with corporate dentistry after you get out of dental school? So that we hear Dr. Hulse's perspective on that in this episode. So that's my most important takeaway from today's episode. So at the end of this episode, you're going to find out where you can get an audio bonus around making better and faster decisions as a dental practice owner. So to be sure to listen all the way through this entire interview to get access to that. Now, here's part 2 of my interview with Dr. Jarett Hulse. So you've gotten to the point where you're actually, you found your location, you used Practice Cafe as a demographics report to kind of give you some ideas of different places, I'm assuming, and then they kind of helped you with more of a specific location, and then you started building your team. So give us a rundown quickly of who was on your team. You said attorney, CPA, things like that. Who else?
So yeah, Practice Cafe helped me with that. But then once you find a location, you've got to drive around, looking at the place, looking at the traffic flow, looking, where just part of town it is. And then when we found that, but even we found out you got to find someone, you need a lease negotiator. That's the part you need don't try it. You don't know anything about it. Don't even try it. Okay. Find someone who, there's the guy online. I never used him, but on Dental Town, what's his name? I wrote it down.
George Vale.
Yeah. Everyone loves him. I didn't reach out to him. I thought about it and there's one guy who works in Austin that's what he does. And so I worked with him. I found a dental CPA. I find that's is very important. But again, at the time, I didn't know that was important. I just know that people on Dental Town and other dentists, they told me that was important. So okay, that's important. I don't know anything. I'm just trying to figure it out. But it makes sense. Why would I guess I could save a few dollars maybe if you did some payroll person that's local, but so I just kind of looked around, found that. I found someone I really liked out of Dallas. They're Moss, Luce, and Womble, Jeff Moss. They've been excellent. And I met him and talked to him. I called him, and they've been very helpful. They helped plan. They also had more information I didn't have. So yes, he would help plan our CPA and our payroll and our finance, but he also helped plan our lives. Things again I never thought about. I need a will. I need like 5 different insurances, and so you got to find an insurance agent. You got to find a lawyer. You got to find. So these are all people you got to find. And how do you do that? The internet, but obviously good talking to them. Same thing when you're starting up and you're looking for equipment. Okay, everyone's trying to sell you something. Go talk to them. See, price is important, but talk to them. See if you like them. See, I don't know. See, I'm somewhat kind of a blunt person sometimes. I try to tone that down. I live in Texas, but but still, I don't want to be handed some whatever line or something, or sales me. I know the answers to questions I want to ask sometimes. And anyway, so those are kind of the people I needed to find. Once we got closer, I needed to find, you got to find someone's going to build your website. You got to find a marketing company. You got to somehow sign up for insurances, or do you decide if you want to sign up for insurances? So these are all these pieces, but again, I'm not deciding any of these things really on my own. I'm not guessing. There are a lot of dentists I find that they do just guess, and that's fine. That's the great thing about dentistry, is that most of us aren't very good at business and still manage to make a fairly okay living. That's crazy about it. So you can kind of screw things up, and you're still eating. But it's and that's what, and I have people, and there are people that are very successful for that. And when for the people that are very successful despite themselves, it's that's demographics. A lot of times it's demographics. That's what it comes down to. But if
I think there's another piece of that, and that's always the willingness to continue to be moving forward. Because, like I said, what we talked about earlier about fixing small problems, it's also about not being afraid to make small mistakes. You can never make big mistakes. I mean, big mistakes would be like, like you'd said, like it's renting a $500,000 store office front in Manhattan whenever you know you can't afford that, or the numbers just don't make sense. You can never be unwilling to, in my mind, and this is maybe not par for the course. In the dental industry, I may be lauded for this, but I'm more apt to tell someone to instead of analyzing something for 6 months. Now there are big ones, important things like saying where you're going to open your practice is very important. Being mentally ready and emotionally strong enough and having financial support ready to open a practice are big things. You can't make those big mistakes, right? But as far as things like picking out a website provider, rather than sit around and sitting on I've got 6 months worth of analysis I've been doing on these different people's websites, and these strengths are SEO, these strengths are PPC, these strengths are social advertising, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Is to make those small mistakes, get them done, and then realize that they're a small mistake, and then fix them.
Well, you make a good point. I mean, you can take it the other way, is that you overanalyze everything. You got to do your home. In my opinion, the reason I was successful is because I'm getting there is because I do my homework. But at the same time, you have to make decisions, and you'll find opening the business, you'll make more decisions than you've ever made in your life about things you never even thought you didn't even know you had to think about it. The example I often give to people about opening a practice and decisions is you have to decide. Go into your office, and I don't even know what it's called, the little board that runs around the side of your walls that's like so you don't scratch the wall. You have to decide what to make that out of. You have to decide what color that's going to be. And you've seen those every day for your whole life, and you've never thought about it for half a second. And now you have to think about that. And there are 1,000 of those. And and that's something that's interesting. And so you do have to make decisions, and like brown, and just do it. And so start out something a little small, but you have to make it. So it is a lot of, but you do have to make those decisions.
Right.
If you're constantly not doing that, you won't get anywhere. But that's kind of like, that's what I did for several years. That's why I feel a lot of people do, which is why they never get out of their bad job, and they never enjoy dentistry, because they don't create what they want, because they don't make those decisions. And it starts out at the very beginning with wanting just what do you want, and okay, let's take that first baby step, whatever it may be. You got to move, got to get your license, got to figure out where you want to live, whatever it is, write it down, and just start working your way from there. Listen to a self-help book, or read a book, or whatever it is. You're making progress. You're making a decision all along the way, and then as you get closer to opening practice, that snowballs and exponentially. But it is all about making those steps. You're going somewhere. If you make the steps, you're going somewhere. Yeah.
Right. As long as you keep moving and you make those little decisions, like you said, like the brown. What happens if it comes back and it's the wrong? That they give you, chocolate brown, and you're wanting mocha brown. I mean, you gotta, it's just those small decisions that Yeah, there's going to be. I always joke to people and say that there's 3.2 billion different decisions that dentists have to think about whenever they're opening a dental practice, and it's impossible to keep up with all of them. And I don't think that you overanalyze. I think your analogy of you doing your homework was more adequate because you leveraged other people's experience to get you more of a defined answer quicker. And I think that's kind of the recurring story of what you've been saying to me is that you did your research, but you researched people that had already done it. And so when you leverage someone else's experience, you may not make that right decision exactly the right time, but I think kind of in your subconscious sometimes you'll file things away to where you may not remember where you got that little tidbit of information from, but it was probably in there somewhere.
Yeah.
And by leveraging that other person's experience, you then greatly reduce your chance of error. It's still not going to be 100%, but maybe it comes back and that brown was the right color, but it didn't end up matching the chair that you had up there.
Yeah.
Right. There's all these little things that just come into play that there's not ever a 100% correct answer on everything. So let's circle back to opening the practice. So you've built your team now. You've set the date, you got everything up and rolling for the practice to get started. You started making all these little decisions. Is there any decisions that you were making in that process that, looking back now, if you would have made that? Number one, let's start with an easy question. Any of those decisions you were making back then, do you regret right
now? Possibly some insurance participation. It's kind of dental insurance participation. It's very difficult probably to start off without any, and basically I signed up with almost every PPO insurance. That's what I did. I feel that's what a lot of people did. That's kind of the model that Breakaway promotes. And I didn't give it a lot of thought. I always figured, okay, I'll sign up for these insurances, and I'll drop them later if need be. And that's kind of where I am right now. Actually, I'm very, very considering dropping several of them, not all of them at first. You never want to do that. You want to roll it out, as people say, do one or two at a time. But even like on that decision, I'm going to contact Unlock the PPO. It's what they do. Okay, or it is. I know. So a Shine rep was trying to sell me, and they have a similar service. So I'm sure there's other services out there that do it as well. But I know myself and how I practice dentistry, and there are guys that are comfortable seeing many patients at once, and why I've got an efficient, and I've wanted to look at guys who are efficient and see how they did it. But I kind of should have known always from the beginning that that's not me 100%. And maybe one of the ways I've grown is that we do kind of provide a a fee for service experience for a PPO price, which, you'll grow that way, and that's great. And maybe maybe that's how I should have always started. Maybe I made the right decision, but it's tough on, I don't know. It's just tough on my psyche. I don't know. Some of the things I do, and so I feel some of the level of work I provide and service we provide kind of stinks when you look over and see what you're getting paid. So it's just kind of created a little problem a few years into my practice. But who's to say it wasn't the right decision? Maybe I would have had no patients. It wasn't like, again, one of the reasons I wanted to talk here is that you often hear of dental offices that are $1 million+ the first year, and that wasn't me at all. I think, we did okay. I think we were like 435 the first year, which is a little better than the national average, probably like 300 or something maybe. And then
250 to 300 is what we typically see. Like if you can do that pretty, not, I don't want to say easily, because I don't want to degrade the people that are that don't reach that level. There may be some circumstances that happen to them, but I definitely see that as a very even bar to start out with.
Yeah, so maybe we're a little bit above that bar, but not really. And then next year we're at 700 and something, and this year we'll be at not quite $1 million, but we're a little bit below that. And that's a practice for some people. And to me, we're still growing, and there's a lot of overhead, but and I'm still working at it. But there are people that have 700. That's the national average, right? And we were there by year 2, and I don't think I did anything. We worked hard at it, but I don't feel like we had a super great success story, and I can't keep up with it. So anyway, with insurance, that's just one thing that maybe I would have looked at a little closer. I probably still would have signed up with some, but I may have limited that a little bit. And a valid point that a lot of people put it safe, and I'm just repeating them, like everything I say almost, is that
don't be ashamed of that. Don't be ashamed of that. Before the interview started, Dr. Hulse actually looked over my shoulder and saw one of these posters on my wall, and he recognized the picture off of the poster that's up here. If you're listening in, there's posters behind me. We have a YouTube video feed of this also, and it's just a picture of it's like a silhouette of a guy holding his fist out, and he recognized the advertisement as an old fitness person. And I keep these old ads in my wall because they're ads from like the early 1900s. And if you look at them and you read them, you could think that they were ads you'd see like on Facebook or on Google Ads today. And I keep them there to remind myself that as far as advertising goes, nothing has really changed in 100 years. Yes, the way people advertise is different, via your phone or through for whatever means, but the message and the ways that the advertisements go, they really haven't changed a whole lot. So everyone is stealing from other people. We were talking about Tony Robbins earlier. Tony Robbins stole from Stephen Covey. Stephen Covey stole from Dale Carnegie. Dale Carnegie stole from et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Everybody steals from somebody because there's really, not that many unique ideas in the world right now. I mean, just look at Hollywood, for example. All they can do nowadays is just reiterate the same movies over and over and over again. So
Avengers is awesome.
Yeah. So there's no.
What I was saying. Yeah, thank you. But I think what I was saying was, what was it? Marketing. So we put a lot of money into marketing, but you got to look at what your deductibles would be and what your write-offs are, insurance, and if you're writing off $50,000 a year in this particular insurance, could you have gotten some patients if you would put even half that into marketing? So I know people say that a lot, but I think it's a valid way of looking at it. Of course, it's a little hard to think of that abstractly in maybe future planning because you don't know what your write-offs are going to be. But so I don't know if that was a bad decision or not, and but it's just a part of the practice evolving. But that is something that maybe I wish I had not signed up with quite so many at the beginning.
And there's really not a good way to go about figure out exactly which insurances are going to be fruitful or not. The best way I've heard about doing that is maybe looking in your area, looking at your insurances and seeing like who has the biggest population of that insurance in your area. And maybe you do accept those to help build that practice up in the beginning. But there's really not a good way to test it other than signing up for everybody, allowing everything to come in, and then seeing who comes in, and then doing that, cutting off the lowest hanging fruits on there.
So I don't know if I don't really regret it, but you asked me to come up with something. That's one thing maybe I would have done differently, perhaps. Besides that, not really. Being with all the homework I would do and all the planning I do, you would think that I remember coming up to the day we had planned the opening and wanting everything to be set. I wanted all my lists to be set. I wanted my systems to be set. I wanted how to run all the software. I remember I drove to New Orleans 2 weekends in a row to go to Sandy Pardue's. She had she has these spice up your practice and other things. So I drove back and forth 2 weekends in a row to go to that. I was working an associate job to learn that. I'm going to make these lists. And anyway, it comes up to the day of our opening, and we have our first patient in the waiting room. We had kind of done an opening a few days, not opening, but we had the staff in a few days before, and we're just running over systems. And anyway, the patient's there, and exciting first patient. He's in the waiting room and a reception area, and I realized we don't have a lead apron to take X-rays, and and I think the system might have come back and told me. I was like, I'm like pacing in the back of the office trying to figure out what to do. So like crap. All right. So I basically called the dental practices closest to me. I called, there's two literally within the shopping, like my shopping center is humongous. It's one, and they're both, one's corporate, one's office that owns, it's a couple guys that opened several Medicaid offices. I called them because they were the closest. They both told me no, saying that they.
How hard was it? How hard was it for you to call someone and be like, "Can I borrow?"
Yeah, it's embarrassing. But what else am I going to do? I have a few people on the schedule, guys in the waiting area. So I called the next day. They don't have any. I was like, everyone has two. No one has one of those, especially these bigger practices. They said no. I was like, okay, thanks. This is how it's, And anyway, so I called the guy across the street who's also in private practice who he'd been open maybe 6 months. And he said yes. And I came over and he borrowed it and it was fine. But it's kind of a metaphor to, you're never ready. And there was also a million things. And now here I am 3 years later. We still don't have all the systems in place. We still don't. We're still improving, but changing things. So it's coming back to what I was saying at the beginning about trying to get ready to start up the practice. Also, when you're in the practice, you're just never going to be done. You're never going to be perfect. And it's just a growing organic thing that, and you have to try to be comfortable with that. And I still work on that. It still sucks to me. I want it to be perfect. I'm a dentist and I need my little microns, this and that. And, but, and that's when you learn dentistry too, actually. It's the lesson I've learned is that, they teach you, and this again, I've learned from other people, but dentistry, dental school, they teach you have to be perfect. You have to, if you're off by, half a millimeter, you suck. You're the worst dentist in the world, and it's, and that will happen occasionally. You'll be perfect or you think you're perfect. But vast majority of the time is not, I'm always could have made that feeling a little bit better. It could have, but you've got to become comfortable with that. And that's something I work on myself and something that I have gotten a lot better at, that you don't beat yourself up when something doesn't go 100% right, because in my opinion, it's usually better than what a lot of other dentists do. And it's the best I could do. And you didn't harm the patient. You're trying to help them. And if you really didn't like something, you do it again for free. And that happens occasionally too. But, just do what's right. But that's again, an internal demon that I think a lot of dentists have, is trying to be perfect. Clinically, but it also goes over to your business side, and you gotta get over that, because you'll never be happy if that's how you live.
So the first practice took you 7 years after dental school to get started. If you were to be opening another practice today, like we reset the clock, your current practice is gone. Starting out today, you're walking out of dental school again, but you have all the knowledge that you've gotten over the past 10 years. How long does it take you to get a practice up and running?
Me still, 6 months, a year. I don't know exactly. If I had to guess, maybe 9 months, somewhere like that. I would say so.
What would you do differently, or would you do anything differently?
The really only thing is my location's good. I probably could have gotten a little better location. I feel like I could have done a little, I told you I'm on the outskirts of Austin. I feel there are some places that if I gone a little 15, 20-minute commute longer, I could have found someplace a little bit better. It's really about it. Maybe even more. I spent a lot on marketing compared to most people. I always remember a statistic that Scott from Breakaway, Scott Loon always says, or maybe doesn't always say, he said at one of the seminars I went to with him that, you guys spending at least $40,000 your first year or you'll be crawling. And I think I probably spent around 60 in marketing the first year.
What medium?
Which, we did some mailers. We still do mailers. I've done some Google AdWords. The website's huge. Just a couple of local newspapers, also some ads in there. Really, that's about it, really. Website's huge. I feel I went a different way a little bit with the website. I did not go one of the big companies that designed your website. I did go with one of the cheaper template websites. I don't remember if that was a financial decision at the time or not, but I do think I made it work. And the way I made it work was I bought into Mike Barr on Dental Town's theory, or what he teaches, which is it's all about content, and you should write it yourself, and you should write it. You can't outsource that and have. I feel like I always thought it was an Austin thing, but probably anywhere people want to know. Maybe it won't look as professional as something that looks like it's it's made by a computer or something, or cut out of a textbook. But when I'm writing descriptions for the various procedures we do, I write it in my voice. I wrote everything in our voice. I wrote to welcome and that's kind of what my bar preaches, and I think it works. I think people are looking for that old school. That's the one thing they probably are looking for in a dentist, old school. They don't want old school technology or old school anything. What they probably want is that old school doctor patient relationship where you kind of get to know your family dentist and family doctor, and that's as a starting practice. That's something we try to promote at some point, but it's not just me, it's also the staff. You want the staff to be friendly and the atmosphere of the office. You don't want it to be just yourself. That's why you don't want, name your practice after yourself. You want to name it after you. Somehow create a brand. You're not going to create a brand like Walmart. You still want to be the practice that people are in love with, not just yourself. So that's a little hard, but at the same time, my website, I make it personal, and I feel people, it took me a long time to write it, and it was still an ongoing thing, but it's mostly done. I'm just going to be adding to it, but I feel that helped. I don't know. As far as marketing go, I feel people wanted that, especially nowadays with corporate dentistry being huge the past 5 years. We have, like I said, I have a corporate dental place right near me. There's a lot of corporate places around me, and people poo-poo that and say it's horrible. I prefer corporate people. I want the corporate dentistries near me. I don't even consider them competition. I just know what it is, and a lot of the public knows what it is too. And if they don't, they'll find out, and then they come to me. And so I'd much rather have 10 corporate dental people around me than the guy next to. I wouldn't want me next to me. Let's put it that way. I would not want me next to me. And there's a guy who lived at that open I told you across the street who lent me the apron, and he was a new dentist, private dentist also. And he actually had some, I don't know he had some personal issues. He moved back to California, so his office actually closed. It opened an endodontic practice actually, which I'm happy about because now that's less competition, So there are a lot of dentists around, but I know people don't want the corporate dental, but they do something totally different than what we do. And in fact, and I don't even know what they do better. They say, I know you read about, they have all these marketing dollars and they put all this money, they have this corporation behind it. In my opinion, I've not seen a good marketed corporate dental. I mean, maybe we don't have Aspen around here. We don't have Heartlands. We have some other ones, and I have seen very poor marketing from them, in my opinion.
Here's the dirty little secret about a lot of corporate practices is that the stages of growth that you went through are the same stages of growth that corporate dental practices typically go through. Except for sometimes we'll have more overhead. And like you said, you wrote you wrote the words on your website yourself. So you're going to attract patients that are going to be attracted to you, your brand, your vision, your voice. Mm-hmm. They're going to be attracting people that are attractable. So the problem with those people is that they're attractable. So they may not have any type of loyalty to that corporate place because guess what? They could be switched somewhere else at the same exact time. If there's any, one of the biggest problems in corporate dentistry is turnover. You went through that yourself and as an associate. So whenever the dentist leaves, there's turnover as a new dentist comes in. So somebody comes in, they've got a new dentist every time they come in. Lots of different things happen. So it's very, very astute observations on you. So going back to your history, I wanted to ask a few more questions that we talked about before we wrap up. If you're going to go back through this again, if you're talking to somebody just coming out of dental school, would you advise someone to do as much associate work as you did before starting their own practice?
No. I think some is important. I think very hard to be decent clinically right out of school. I think that sure there are outliers and exceptions to that rule. But if I had to do it again, I would say about 3 years. That's what I think would be, because again, you're never going to be ready for the business part. So, but you just have to be, you have to know what you're doing a little bit. I can imagine it'd be a lot harder to not know business and not know clinical stuff. Mm-hmm. One thing that sets you apart, and also as you grow as a dentist, is just your list of skills. there are some practices that are busy enough that they can just do fillings and crowns, and that's their whole practice for 50 years, and they're fine. But nowadays, to be competitive, you do have to kind of, there are things that, and maybe there are a lot of different aspects and things you can do that are on top of that. The really successful private practices and dentists that I've seen are in some ways super generalists, some people call them, not specialists, and they may not do everything. No, most of them don't do everything, but you kind of find some things. So basically you can make a decent practice doing general dentistry, but then you can add these little services. And even if you're only doing some on each of them, you're doing some little short-term ortho, or you're doing some implants, you're doing some sleep stuff, you're really into occlusion, you're doing some cosmetics, even if that's just a small part of your practice, each one adds $50,000, $100,000, a year or more as you grow, all of a sudden your average practice is now, that's a lot more take home, and that's, you're doing really well. And you don't have to do all those, and some guys, they'll become, as they grow, I'm not there yet, but I can see, hopefully, as we get better at those things, or more of your practice becomes those aspects hopefully you like doing, not just because it's lucrative, or you just need to add something because you actually like it and you're good at it, becomes more of your practice. And a lot of those people sometimes have associates taking, working with them. And that's a path I've seen a lot of people, or I've seen people take, and I think it's what I probably want to take, is kind of get better at certain things. And I do have different services I do, but I would say none of them are really a huge part of my practice. The vast majority is just general basic dentistry at this point. But that's where some growth potential comes in.
Would you recommend someone go through to a corporate associateship job?
Not if you can help it.
Do you feel like that was any? Did you feel like you gained any maybe hand speed, or because there's a philosophy out there? I know that that's out there that a lot of people talk about is, go to corporate dentistry, take them for a couple of years to learn your hand speed, because you're going to see a lot of patients and learn as much as you can about the business side while you're in there, about their processes. Do you feel like that's an invalid philosophy, or do you think that you can learn just as much from?
Yeah, I don't really like that. You got to work for someone, and I would prefer you to work for someone who at least has some, even if you don't agree with everything they do, at least has something that you may be able to take from it, from the business side, as well as the corporate side. A lot of times, you're associated corporate office, you're the only one there, you're thrown in, you're really kind of learning on your own. Yeah, they say they'll give you some CE credits and stuff, but you can take those yourself. So I just think there's so much I've seen. Maybe there's good ones out there. You do hear those unicorns, but I just see, in my own experience, been very poor working for and hearing about corporate. I mean, literally, like, I mean, 98% I've heard not great things on these. So as far as hand speed goes, I think that's a little bit of a myth. I think there are ways of being efficient. You do get a little bit faster over time. I've taken efficiency things from various people. I've seen Chris Griffin is this guy who does that's his whole thing, is a dentist. I've seen him speak and seen his DVDs and things, and there is a point of that, but you can only get a little bit faster. There are guys that are really fast, and they're in dental school, and there are guys that are really slow. I don't see it changing a lot. Okay, yeah, you can have little tips here and there, and I do, and I learn them, and I am faster than I was in dental school, and you get better at stuff. I get loops, you can see more endo, but I don't think it's going to make a big difference in your career how fast you are, unless that's how you want to practice, and then you probably already know you're fast. So, so yeah, they're slow and fast dentists, but I don't see that the speed changing that greatly. So that's not something, I'm not worried about speed so much. I don't know how you move your hand faster. I mean, I don't know. That's maybe increase 10%, 15%, but that's more learning some clinical efficiencies, which even if you learn them, a lot of them you can't even incorporate in corporate dentistry, because you're not allowed to order what you want or do what you want or schedule what you want. It's when you're in private practice you can make some of these changes. So I would try to find an associate working for someone in private practice and try to learn some things that way.
So there, to kind of wrap us all up, if there was anyone out there that's listening right now, that has considered private practice ownership. Maybe they're even still in dental school, because we actually have quite a few dental students that have reached out to me that listen. What do you think? What is one piece of advice that you can give? I know you said that don't overanalyze. Is there anything else that we've talked about today that you could give as a piece of advice to someone that may be looking down this route?
Yeah, I would say kind of, and I've already said it before, but that that you can change and that you can make what you want of your life and your dental career. So kind of look for mentors, figure out, at least in a general sense, what you want. You may not know 100% what you want, but you may know you want to change, and just start learning. Part of that's clinically, part of that's just reaching out, talking to other dentists. But know that you don't have to be, you don't have to fall. Most people fall into their life, whatever they fall into. That's the big difference between people in business who are successful in life and people that just kind of let life happen to them. And that's true in everything, dentistry and business. And that was me forever until probably like 5 years ago. So you can kind of change yourself and make it what you want. And you don't have to be the most outgoing or the most good-looking person or friendly but those are things you can improve, and you just make the steps. It's mental, and so you can change, and it's not and it's not easy. It's always a struggle, but it's fun, and I think it's more fun, and I feel proud that I could change myself, and not, because it's something that people don't even think about, and I never thought about for probably 30 years, that you just, okay, I'm doing this, I wake up, this happens to me, this happens to me, this happens to me. Well, you can plan your life, and that's, and just one step at a time. Get a book and start writing it down. That's my advice. Yeah.
So you said you talked about self-improvement. You talked about a lot of the big names kind of in the dental industry right now. Can you give a kind of as a way for us to be able to give us just an extra little thing? Is there, of all the studies you did, can you name a couple of self-improvement books or resources that someone could have or use?
Yeah, it's all things most people have heard before. I actually, Breakaway is huge. Dental Town is the biggest thing for my career ever. I've learned more on Dental Town for free than I've learned in probably the hundreds of thousands of dollars I spent on CE. There's good and bad on there. You got to learn, a lot of negativity sometimes, just like there is in life, just like there is on the internet, especially. But there's also positivity there. You got to look for the right people. So you got to give and take on that. I went to the Productive Dentist Academy near Dallas. Graham Berry, actually, Dr. Beard was very helpful on case presentation. That helped my practice a lot. That's once you start up, though. Classic practice. Sandy always gives information online. I've never used her as a consultant, but going there was helpful. Big fan of Tony Robbins. The thing that's changed actually in the past year also, I would say for me, and it's been ongoing, but I feel like I bet you if you looked up some study with some exponential growth rate is podcasts. I still learn dental CE and things through DVDs I buy sometimes, but there's so much free stuff online, like this podcast and other podcasts and just leaders in industry and whatnot, and just free. You can listen on your commute, and it's just a lot of opens your mind. You go on Amazon, and there's a lot more books now. I bet you there's 10 times more books now being produced. People write just ebooks a lot, so maybe it's easier. I don't know, but about growing a dental practice and dental marketing, and some are better than others. And once you start reading them, 90% of it will be something you've heard already or repeating, but you'll pick up a point here or there, and the book costs whatever it costs, $20, $50. It's worth it. Two that I liked that I thought were very good for startups. Well, again, I was a repeat for me by the time I got to them, but I like Reinventing Dentistry I wrote it down, Dr. Ranesh Ganatra.
Yep.
And I thought his book was really good. one I liked a while ago. To be honest, I don't remember that well. I remember liking it very good. It was Dentistry's Business Secrets by Edward Logan. I thought it was very good.
Never heard of that one.
Yeah, that's been out. Maybe that one probably has been out a few more years. I noticed there was an ebook form now, but I thought that was good. But you know, a lot of the classic books and Dale Carnegie and all those are good. It's all good. You know, just keep reading and growing and listening to podcasts and. But those were the big ones for me. I mean, Dental Town, Breakaway, Tony Robbins was big for me. So those are the biggies for me. But and then actually, you know, and also you know, thing that's been really big for me in the past 6 months. I have also in the past few years, I also find other dentists. I do the master track from AGD, Academy of General Dentistry. So it's local. It's Texas, mostly Texas dentists, but actually the master track's so good we draw people from all over the country to come to it. But they're trying to get their mastership in the Academy of General Dentistry, and so it's nice to just meet dentists face to face. And sometimes, you know, these are guys who are all into clinically stuff. I feel a lot of dentists are sometimes go to courses and they're there just to get their credits, and they're negative and they're been in a rut, and you know, I find that's very common actually. But these guys are guys who are all pursuing excellence, and so I've met a lot of guys that way. Clinically, I'm actually almost done. I have 4 more credits till I get my mastership. So that's, you know,
congratulations.
Yeah, you know, it's one of those things that's good for me, but patients don't really know what it means. But, you know, it's cool for me. But and then I also have been a mastermind group through Dental Town, which is business mastermind, and that's huge. These guys are. I was just very lucky to stumble upon them, and they let me in, you know, invited me to their group. And but they're super successful guys in all different types of practices, and it's just good to surround yourself by positive winners who are going through or have gone through what you're going through.
Fantastic. And so, Dr. Hulse, if anyone wants to contact you with any type of questions or anything like that, do you mind sharing a way for them to be able to be in contact?
Yeah, sure. I mean, you can use my personal email. It's fine. It's jarett.hulse@gmail.com. So my name's spelled it's spelled correctly, but everyone spells it incorrectly every single day of my life. So it's JARETT dot or period HULSE@gmail.com. That's my personal email, and you can email me whatever. I like I said earlier, I'm happy and I enjoy talking to other dentists about this stuff. I think it's fun. So if you have any questions or want advice, or just don't try to sell me something.
Yeah, I say a lot. You know, Jarett sounds a lot like Jonathan. Jonathan's like just JOANATHAN. That's how you spell it. Everybody goes like JOHNATHAN, JONATHAN. It's just like,
I'm used to it. It happens literally every single day of my life. So 2 R's or 1 R, or it's 1 R, like 2 R's or 1 T, and it's all over the place. ED, Jarett, they say that a lot. That's a more common name. So you know, the child molester from Subway.
Oh,
often confused for me. It's very nice.
Oh, that's terrible. Oh,
Yeah.
man. Yeah, we actually did one. Dr. Pham. I posted one of his interviews on LinkedIn, and they were like, "Is this the Dr. Pham Pham from Texas that had his license pulled because of this crazy thing that happened?" And it was like this old.
Oh, geez.
So I was like, no, that's just his name. It's not the same one.
Wow.
So yeah, lots of confusion in that. So thank you so much for your time. We went way over. We're definitely going to cut this into two parts.
Whatever you want it. Fine.
Yeah. And you know, just for everyone out there, this whole there's an old saying of paralysis by analysis that you know, a lot of people go through that. And the way that I tell a lot of people, if they find themselves in that rut, if you're in that rut right now, if there becomes a point where you stop searching for answers and you start searching for permission, is the point where you probably already know most of it. Because, and the way I like to say that is that, you know, a lot of people think that they're searching for answers when they're reading books or listening to interviews or listening to podcasts or watching infomercials, watching Shark Tank, coming up with business ideas. A lot of the times they think they're searching for answers. And at the end of the day, a lot of the time, the way that I feel like I rationalized it was, I wasn't searching for answers when I started my own business. I was searching for permission at a certain point. I already knew all of it at that point. It's just, you know, I knew it from a knowledge base, and I know everyone else is the same way. So if you're out there, I'm sure Dr. Hulse is saying the same thing I'm saying here is you have our permission to get started.
Yeah, sounds good.
Does that sound like a good analogy to end it on?
Yeah, it sounds good.
All right. Well, thanks again for your time.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks, John.
Bye. A special thanks to Dr. Jarett for sticking around longer and providing some incredible insight to him, his life, his experience as a practice owner. And as you heard, when you have the ability to make the right decision fast, you can free your time and move on to more important tasks. So for today's bonus, I've created a special audio bonus to help you with that decision making in your practice. So to get that bonus, simply text practice to 33444. That's practice to 33444, or visit startyourdentalpractice.com/bonus if you're outside of the US. So that's it for today's episode, but that doesn't mean that the learning and implementation have to stop there. I've created a free report called The 15 Numbers That Will Make or Break Your Dental Practice. This report has been downloaded over 1,000 times by dental professionals. So if you want your free copy of this report that's going to outline what the most important numbers are in any dental practice, and it also includes how to look at your numbers, how to set goals, has a whole slew of really important information that is the culmination of all of my experience as a dental CPA, then just go to startyourdentalpractice.com/free gift. That is startyourdentalpractice.com/free gift. And so that's it for today, Ambitious Dentist. Again, I'm Jonathan Van Horn, CPA and ABV. I'll see you next week with another world-class practice owner or consultant that will help you start your very own dental practice. Thank you guys so much for being a part of the Start Your Dental Practice community. If you enjoyed today's episode, please do me a favor and go to startyourdentalpractice.com/iTunes to leave your honest feedback and review on iTunes. It's going to help me create a better experience, a better show, a better podcast for you, the ambitious dentist. Your feedback really does help, regardless if you like the show today or not. If you didn't like the show, let me know, because it's going to help me create a better show and podcast for you. Lastly, if you know of anybody that would benefit from today's episode and today's content, today's guest, please feel free to share with them on social media or through email.